It is a day after the night before. I've let everything simmer down and simmer off because, well, there's a lot of stuff started going around, and the press releases started coming in, and the Bethesda thing was later than I thought. I thought it was at 3, turns out it was at 5 in the morning, so I went to bed. And this is actually the second time I'm recording this, because the first time I recorded it, I went very off track. Quite too much. I ended up going off track a lot of times. Anyway, this is about the E3 conference for Xbox, the Xbox conference, which is, to compare it to last year, it's better. I think it's because last year they spent so much time, they were so determined to try and hype up the Scorpio so much, and I have a complete disinterest in the Scorpio. They mentioned it in this one, I will get to that. My views on it has not changed, but I'll get to that. It felt a lot more focused on a variety of games rather than big names, like having them spend a lot of time on Halo or Forza or basically the Xbox known franchises. Last time they spent a whole bunch of time sort of concentrating on, look at this big title, and look at this big title, montage of trailers for indie games, big title, montage. This time it was a lot more open. They did spend time on their big titles, but not as much time as it was. It felt shorter by comparison, which is probably a good thing, because the last thing they want to do, especially for a press conference, is get to the point where you just end up being bored, which is what happened last time. This time I was very intrigued. There were a few games that caught my interest. A couple of other games caught my disinterest, and a couple of games I know are extremely popular, but I have no interest in them. They're not my type of game, but I know they're extremely popular. I'm probably going to be getting onto that, because that was one of the points where I diverged quite a lot in the previous recording. They opened up expectingly, touting 4K, because their big opening section was about the Xbox Scorpio, the Xbox One Scorpio, or as it's now called, the Xbox One X. Probably the dumbest name they could have given it. It would have been so much better if they just kept the Scorpio name and just called it the Xbox Scorpio, rather than the Xbox One whatever. They're going for the family of systems. They're using the same terminology as Nintendo does with DS, where it is our family of systems. So basically, it's going to be the Xbox. There's the original Xbox One, then there's the Xbox One S, which is the slim version, then there's going to be the Xbox One X. That is the main difference at the moment, is that there's the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X. The S stands for slim, and the X probably stands for extreme, because they haven't moved from the fucking 90s. That is always the one big problem with the X. God, even saying it just sounds so stupid. With the Scorpio, I'm just going to keep calling it the Scorpio because I prefer the name Scorpio. The Scorpio it's coming out in November 7th, and I am completely disinterested in it. That's not just from a position of I play PC games. It's from a position of I don't see the point. The biggest thing they were touting for is, look, you can play in 4K, and I have a complete disinterest in 4K. Even on PC, I don't care. Because the problem is that graphical fidelity is often used as a crutch for a game. If you look at games like Quake, when that originally came out in the late 90s, it was touted as, it's the most graphically intensive game ever. It uses so much things like coloured lighting and all of these things and polygonal graphics and da-da-da-da-da. It was touted as a sort of this graphically superior game, but it has aged woefully. It is a game that now looks like arse and plays like arse and is immensely boring and has a colour palette that's basically consisting of brown and grey. That ends up being the problem. Graphical fidelity is often used as a crutch, and my fear is that this is going to go the same way as HD, and it's just going to be used as a crutch. Because when 3D came along, it was used as a crutch for mediocre games. HD, it was used as a crutch for mediocre games. And for this, the cycle continues, and it's probably going to be used as a crutch for mediocre games. So I am completely disinterested in the Xbox One X. There is only one reason why I think this and the PS Plus No, the PS Pro. So many things. Naming things is now stupid. The Pro for PlayStation, and this is the Scorpio. The only reason why I think these exist is for VR, because the original Xbox and the original PS4, or the original Xbox One. This is why Xbox is naming things. It's so stupid. The original Xbox One and the original PS4 are just not VR capable, but these ones are, and that is pretty much the only reason why these exist. Because the push for 4K is pointless. Everything is going to be 4K eventually. Just, it is going to be a gradual pickup that is going to come gradually. It's going to be a slow pickup the same way that HD was a slow pickup. You can't force these things. They're going to arrive eventually. And so this is the irritating thing about this. I have a complete disinterest. They spouted off a whole bunch of numbers, going off the whole thing, shouting all the teraflops about the hardware and all sorts of stuff like that, and I honestly don't care. Pretty much the only difference between the Scorpio and the original Xbox One is graphical fidelity, and even the thing they were saying is, oh look, you have all of these games from the 360, and now the original Xbox, that are now backwards compatible with this small selection of games that you can play on these on the new consoles. They're going to be up-resed and look even fancier and even better. I don't care. Deus Ex looks like it was made with pitchstick and string. It looks like the entire game, all of the shapes and all the people were designed using the bloody Microsoft Paint line tool. That doesn't make it a bad game. It still is extremely good. So, the whole push for I would prefer native backwards compatibility. Native backwards compatibility. Not the selection of games. You have disc, you put in, it works. I'm going to be getting to that eventually. If you just want a gaming system, because the games that are going to be coming out now on the Xbox One are going to be playable on both the original Xbox One and the Slim and the Scorpio, buy one that's cheaper, which is probably going to be the Xbox One S. The Slim is probably going to be cheaper because there is no point otherwise. If you're that intensive about graphical fidelity, if you want 4K that badly, then fine. It honestly has no effect on the greatness of a game. Games are good because they're fun, not because they have more pixels. And then from that, they went into the big one. They went into one of the big Xbox franchises, Forza Motorsport 7. I've played quite a few of the Forza games in the past. It's not really my type of game. I grew up with Need for Speed, so I'm quite disconnected to the franchise. But I have played a few of them on the 360, and yeah, it's fun. It's great. I'm just disconnected to the franchise. I have nothing against the game. The series as a whole, it's always been very good, very well made, very polished. Yeah, one of the interesting things about it is that they made a deal with Porsche. And at the event, they showed off the 911 GT. Although it is a variant of the latest 911 GT, it's like the 911 GTRS or S or something like that. Because I highly doubt that they showed off, look at this new version of the 911, and it's like the base version. I bet it's a sub version or a variant of the latest GT, of the latest 911 GT, because they wouldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't use it, especially for something like this. They would use it for the motor show or something. They're more likely to sell Porsches at a actual motor event rather than showing off Forza. So, yeah, that's generally just my cynicism about the entire thing. It's Porsche. So, Then came an interesting line from Phil Spencer. I think it was Phil Spencer. I'm assuming it was Phil Spencer. We're saying they're going to be showing off 42 games on the stage. I doubt that. Out of the 2 pages of notes, they probably barely broke 20, where they went by name. So they probably counted the games that are in the montages, because otherwise, well, it's fucking impossible for them to have shown 42 games by name. So it's basically a giant PR line saying, look at all of the games we're showing on stage. We're only going to mention 10 of them, but we're going to have 42 if you count all of the frames. So, yeah, it's a very obvious PR line which gets on my wick a lot of the time. That sort of stuff really irritates me because they're trying to be show-offs, going, look how fancy our game is, and or look how many games we have on the stage, when they don't. It's technically they had 42 games on stage, but not in the actual sense. And then came the next Metro game. It was billed as a gameplay. It was well, the lining that came onto it was saying it's stuff that's recorded in engine. So it's stuff that was using the engine, not actual gameplay. So it was pre-rendered in engine graphics. So it's not going to look like that in the actual thing. I have to start waving the flag again of there's a difference between gameplay and in engine. This was in engine, not gameplay. So yeah, it's another Metro game. It looked fun. It looked okay. It's been a long while since I played the Metro games. I thought last time you had to go to the surface. It's basically, it looks like a game that spent a lot of time on the surface, and I thought you had to wear a gas mask when you were on the surface. Probably shows how long ago I played the fucking games. Although sadly, one of the things that always goes through the news cycle around Metro, and pretty much the only thing I've been hearing about Metro as of late regarding the news cycle, is the shit show that's been going around, or the clusterfuck that's been going around with the original author and this potential Netflix series or TV series or whatever. So yeah, it's good to see a new game, and it looks very, very good. Then came something which is quite interesting, partly because it's a Ubisoft game, the Assassin's Creed Origins reveal, or their world premiere. Well, their exclusive world premiere. It's not exclusive. They did the whole thing of banning around exclusive again, even though exclusive can just mean exclusive to the conference, like with this Assassin's Creed thing. It was this is exclusive first, not exclusive to the console. So they made a huge deal about it. It's the same thing they did last year of batting around world premiere and exclusive, so bleeding much that the words lose all bleeding meaning. But with this Assassin's Creed one, it looks amazing. The leaks were correct. We don't comment on leaks because leaks can be bollocks at times. But yeah, the leaks were correct. It is going to take place in ancient Egypt. The lead character that you have is the last Magi, which made me think of the O'Connell Mummy, because the current Mummy, the review that Josh made for the current Mummy movie has come out, and it's shit. 2 out of 5. And also on that topic, there is probably a possibility of there actually being mummies in the game. One of the snippets they had in the trailer for it was the lead character fighting off against what I'm guessing is a basilisk, that was interesting. They're going for much more of a supernatural element to this, which is good. Do that. I think going backwards in time into an older setting is going to be much, much better for the series, because it's got to a point where going forwards in time is the technology of the time that they want to be in gets in the way. The best example is for Syndicate, a weapon you can have is just a revolver. Just have a gun, and it got to the point where there is a point in technology where the whole hidden blade, I am a ninja sort of thing loses all meaning when you can start going around with automatic weaponry. And it got to the point, especially with Syndicate, where you could do that. The franchise is much, much, much better built for swashbuckling and the sort of the ninja side of things. So going that far back in time to the times of ancient Egypt and Ra is probably going to be a huge leap for the game. It looks amazing. Playstyle wise, it looks like it's jerry-rigged in some RPG elements, because you have leveled up when you've killed someone in the trailer. So they've jerry-rigged a couple of things in there. But I am very intrigued, and this might be what the franchise needs. It needs to pull back a bit and go more into the fantasy aspect, rather than trying to force its way into sort of political satire or whatever the fuck. This looks great. We're going to be probably going to be finding more about it later today, because Ubisoft is today. So, or today as of recording. I'm not entirely sure when this goes up, but Ubisoft one is at 9 today, so it's in about 6 hours, 7 hours, something like that. Yeah, and so probably going to see a lot more about that later on. And then came basically a one-sentence reveal. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is coming exclusively to Xbox One. This is one of the games where I know it's extremely popular. I've covered it in Press Rush several times, and its popularity is abundantly clear. It's one of the most popular games in the moment. It's not my type of game. I'm not really into the whole survival deathmatch arena battle royale things. It's not my type of game. I understand it's extremely popular, and it's coming with Xbox One. So that in itself is a very bold move. It's even from my perspective of not being that much into the game. For me, the Centres would end up being a extremely popular game has been snagged for exclusivity for Xbox, which is a big move. That is a bold move, and that is a huge plus for them. That's a big plus for them. Then they had one of their almost trademarked indie game montage trailer things, where they just threw out a bunch of trailers, basically, while they're trying to change the stage. So that's basically the thing that I kept on thinking about the whole thing. Every single time they do that, the same as last year, where they just have this selection of trailers that get played for indie games or smaller studio games. It's just so they can prepare the next stage event. Because the stage managers or the stage runners are probably running about on stage trying to... It's like, you stand here, you stand there, that moves there, move the car, get out of the way, tow it away. Yeah, and so the first trailer was for Deep Rock Galactic. It seemed very interesting, like a horde survival thing. It's fascinating. I might quite like that game. Kinda. Games like this can end up being rather shallow. So, I have kind of hope for the game. It looked very fun. It made me think of Starship Troopers. Really made me think of Starship Troopers, because it's the whole insect hive mining, space mining thing. It looked... I quite liked it. It looked fun. Not entirely sure how deep it's going to be, although it was only a trailer, so buggery knows what is actually the depth of the actual thing. Then came State of Decay 2. Yeah, this one looks really fun. It's billed much more as a co-op thing, which isn't really my style of game. I don't really do co-op-y things. I don't really have people to co-op with a lot of the time, but if they have a permadeath single player, like an XCOM style NPCs die permanently sort of thing in it, then sold, done. I will love this game. Yeah, it was basically a mixture of a gameplay trailer and pre-rendered. It was basically a selected gameplay trailer, which works very well. It worked very well. It had me extremely intrigued. They said spring 2018 though, so that's a long way away, and a lot can change in a year. And the last one for the selection was Darwin Project, or the Darwin Project, which is another survival deathmatch battle arena thing. The graphics made me think of Battleborn, that was very strange. It made me think of Battleborn. I've been trying to fix the networking for the gaming PC, and I've been finding a lot of the Battleborn stuff I got, like the trading cards and stuff I got from MCM, and it just made me think of that, because that was what was in my mind at the time. And it has the fast-paced, slightly bombastic nature of the whole thing, which it looks fun. It looks very it looks very fun. It's probably not going to be my type of game. It's probably going to frustrate the hell out of me. But it looks much more quicker paced than sort of the other survival arena type games, which yeah, it has me intrigued. Then, as it is Microsoft, under the guise of Xbox anyway, they showed off Microsoft Minecraft, the The thing they spent a absolute giant pile of money on buying. They showed it off, and basically two things came from it. One is that that Minecraft is going to get a Better Together update, which is going to link up all of the different versions, except for Sony. That is one of the bits of news that came afterwards, is that this joins up all versions of the game, VR, mobile, console and PC, except Sony, and the comments that started coming out from Microsoft and from people around it was saying that they actually inquired to Sony. This is from Xbox people, so they could be bollocking, but they said that they went to Sony and Sony declined. Sony is doing a lot to not have me endeared to them anymore these days. I had the PS3 and enjoyed myself thoroughly, but Xbox is doing nothing to garner my interest, and Sony is doing everything it can to not make me like them anymore. So it's going to. So this Better Together update is going to unify all versions of Minecraft, except for the PS4 version and the PS3 version, I'm most assuming as well. And the second part to the Minecraft news was that they are going to get a 4K patch. Again, pointless to me. I don't care. I am completely disinterested in it. The one thing that comes going through my mind is that the patch, because it's a patch, it's got lighting upgrades and all sort of things like that, but it's also got graphical updates. So you have a texture pack, which is basically a HD texture pack. It just looks like Optifine. Literally just looks like Optifine. Almost exactly. It's sort of the little voice in the back of my mind going, did they actually go to Optifine and just buy the mod and now just implementing Optifine into the main game as a patch, or as this sort of optional update, optional pack? So I don't know. Maybe, probably, it's possible. It's not far from the realms. They've included other stuff that was from the mods before, so it's probably going to do some good for it. It basically makes Optifine pointless, but also by doing that, I'm not entirely sure how many people will really care. Minecraft is not the most beautiful game. It's very in depth, and it's built on its user experiences rather than its graphical fidelity, like many games. And so this whole 4K thing, like much of Xbox's 4K thing, seems utterly pointless. Then they had another list of trailers with more trailers of other things. They wanted to prepare for their Sea of Thieves demo thing, I suppose. The first one was Dragon Ball Fighter Z, or Dragon Ball Z Fighter. Okay, it's another Dragon Ball Z fighter. Looks like it's a 2D fighter or something that's built on the same sort of thing as like the Budokai series or whatever. So it's it's just another Dragon Ball Z fighter game. Then going slightly out of order, slightly out of order, using one that came from the exclusive ones. There was Black Desert, which is a game which some people seem to know about. I don't. It's probably an MMO or an RPG or something like that. I'm like ankle deep in those circles, so generally nothing to say, but that's because I don't really know anything about it. The same can be said about Code Vein. Some people seem to know about it. Again, ankle deep. No real idea of the actual game itself. I don't know. So no comment in that regard. But then came two games that intrigued me to no end. We'll start off with by saying Glam Rock. The Artful Escape. The Artful Escape looked fun. It looked fun. It looked like a Devolver Digital game, which was strange. It just oozed glam rock, like someone rocking out, riding like clouds in a unicorn. It looked fun. It looked so mental. That one intrigued me straight away because it looked fun. It looked really fun. It looked like a Devolver Digital game, and I love Devolver Digital in their games. So anything that's like it, I'm going to adore. Can't wait to get my hands on that one. And then came The Last Night. And then something else broke on Twitter, which was... And what broke on Twitter was, I've refused to even acknowledge this. I've refused to acknowledge it even since the bloody beginning. Partly because I'm completely disinterested in the whole thing, but I think after all of this, I'm probably going to end up doing a video. I'm currently contemplating. I wrote a few notes and things on a separate piece of paper this afternoon about. So part of me is very tempted to do a video on it, sort of outlining my position of things for it. It's basically, to sum up the entire thing, is I don't care. I thought the game looked great. It looked like a mixture of The Last Station and the original Flashback. I thought it looked absolutely friggin' amazing, and I'm probably going to enjoy it intently. But pretty much the main news that's been going on around it is people complaining about the lead creator for it, which to me is bewildering, because generally I don't really care who makes things. You can complain about him as much as you want, but that does not stop making the game good. Again, if people are so interested in my position about this whole thing, I'll do a video on it. I think you will be greatly surprised by my sheer lack of interest in absolute care. Then came the next big event for it, and that was Sea of Thieves. I've been generally quite interested in Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves have been one of the new games that I've been quite interested in. But the one concern that I've always had is the depth of the experience. Because what it always seems to be is that, it's you and friends, or you and other people go to islands and raid it and get stuff, and you fight other players, and then who wins, and you get the money and the booty and the XP and the... Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the depth of the experience, and that's basically the main concern I have, is I'm not entirely sure how deep this is going to be. It still looks very fun. It sounds like they had Simon Pegg do the voiceover in his Scotty voice. But it looked fun. Looked okay. Just not entirely sure of the depth of the experience. Then came the next list of indie games for while they changed things. First was Tacoma, coming out August 2nd. It looked alright. It's not really much to say. It looked fine. It looked great. You have me intrigued. It's coming out on August 2nd, so not that long to wait for it. Then came... as soon as I saw the orange ears go across the screen, I think, have Xbox finally made the decision of Conquer? And then the tone changed drastically when the sort of playful piano music started chiming up. It's Super Lucky's Tale. It looks like a Rare platformer. So it's Rare style platformers have been in mixed popularity in recent times. I reviewed Yooka-Laylee and said, yeah, if you like old Rare games, you would like it very much. Otherwise, it's not going to endear you at all. The game generally, for new players, is bloody terrible. So it could go the same way as that. It had the very Rare sort of style to it, but that could also be in quite mixed company for actual quality. So, generally no comment on that one, because that can go either way. Then, about fucking time, came Cuphead, a release date for Cuphead, the game that Xbox has been showing off. This is the third year Cuphead is at E3. The third year, and it's not even coming out till September. That means they've been showing off a game. They're basically the original time when they originally showed it off. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, was almost barely an alpha, because it's how long has this thing spent in development? It's mental. It's the fact. But yeah, like I said, about bleeding time this thing comes out, because people have been waiting for it for so bleeding long, and Xbox have been making such a huge deal about it, but because it was so slow in development, it's just more about time. And then came Terry Crews, of all things, Terry Crews, and that was to show off Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3, the tone hasn't really changed. It still is it still is the sort of the bombastic nature. It's gone very Saints Row. It's the full-on, hardcore, bombastic, mental kind of gameplay, the hyper physics way of doing things, a sort of, oh yeah, jump about, jump over a building sort of thing. And then bringing Terry Crews. If you make Terry Crews a character in that game, even if it's just like, he does the voice for a character, but you have like the Terry Crews sort of thing, like he had in the trailer. If you make him a character in the game, sold, done. That will make sales. Buy it, bleed and self. If Terry Crews is in this game, even as sort of an additional character, sold, done. Otherwise, they didn't really show that much. It looks like a third-person shooter. There's not really that much else to say. It was just a trailer, and there's not really that much to go by. And then came the mention for ID at Xbox, the one bit I am always intrigued about. ID at Xbox is sort of the section of Xbox I am always most intrigued by, because ID at Xbox is the indie developers, the small developers, the ones that have more creative push, really. Well, it's where the new IP comes from a lot of the time. Part of the ID at Xbox thing was the Last Night and the Artful Escape, as well as some of the other ones like the Coma and things like that, were from the ID at Xbox section as well. But this is just the mentioning of ID at Xbox by name. The only game in that sort of section where they mentioned it by name was a game called Ashen, which looks intriguing. You have me intrigued. It looks grim, right up my alley. Right in my ballpark. And then came something that isn't in my ballpark. The prequel to Life is Strange. Life is Strange Before the Storm. Generally, around the circles that I know of, sort of reviewers and critics and things, Life is Strange ended up being a mixed bag. More because it ended up being in the position... It felt to me that it was more in the position of you either really adored this game or you didn't. So it's my guess about Life is Strange, even when the first one came out, is that it's an acquired taste. Not entirely sure if I'll like it. It has some aspects of things that I like the very narrative-driven sort of storytelling. But I like my gameplay with it as well, so I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. I'm like some of the other ones. Generally, no comment. I know it's very popular among some people. I know it's not looked forward to by others. Generally, no comment. It looked perfectly fine. It looked intriguing. It looked like I was. It went full emo. It's the lead character in it is basically looked like the people I used to hang out with. So perhaps this is the game for me to dive into the series, because it looks like my teenage years. And then came Shadow of War, the sequel to Shadow of Mordor, Lord of the Rings, Shadow of Mordor, the Lord of the Rings, Shadow of War. Not entirely sure. The best thing about this thing was Bruce. It was obviously Bruce, but it was like R umlaut U Z or something along those lines, where it's Bruce, where it's like Bruz by spelling, but it's Bruce because of like umlaut or whatever. Because they had like the if you remember, or if you have seen Finding Nemo, the fish aren't friends. Fish are friends, not food. It's basically that Bruce was Bruce. It's fantastic. It's yeah. There's not really much to say about it. It's very much like Shadow of Mordor. It's very much like, it looks like it plays the same as Shadow of Mordor. There's some added things to it. The gameplay to it is much more army based, rather than sort of the hierarchy. It's basically the hierarchical system that they had, the Nemesis system they had, has been expanded to a much more of an army system rather than a Nemesis system. It's like a Nemesis army system, or something. It's kind of along those lines. It's basically the thing that was best about the game, which was the Nemesis system, has been expanded, so extremely good. And yeah, it plays and looks like previous ones. So yeah, not much to say on it really. it's a sequel to a good game, and it looks good. So, almost a unanimous decision of, yeah, looks fun. Then along came it's probably the most artistic part of the whole thing. The game itself is very obviously an art game. It's a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, this time being Ori and the Will of the Wisps. But probably the best part of it was the guy that came on stage on the piano and started playing it. I like that sort of piano classical music, that sort of relaxed piano music. It's the one thing I've always liked about the Ori games, especially the previous Ori game, was the soundtrack and the music. It's very much my kind of thing. It's one of the sort of the genres of music that I really like, and that was probably my favourite thing about it more than anything else, was having the guy on stage playing the piano, some nice music. And then came a whole big thing about the Xbox console itself, the more information about the X, still a fucking terrible name, as well as some other things as well. The first thing they went on about was the backwards compatibility, as backwards compatibility is now including the original Xbox. I could probably do a video on this by itself. My thoughts on backwards compatibility is, I grew up with a PS2, and that was native backwards compatibility. So, yeah, it's my thoughts on the whole thing. It's basically, I might save it for an entire video by itself, but to be overly general, having a backwards compatibility system is good, but it's not native, so I will still complain. That is the core part of it. It's good that they have it, and it's a huge plus from Sony. Sony being as stubborn as they are, and as much of a pain in the arse as they are around backwards compatibility, it's to me it's a huge plus for Xbox, but they don't get free reign because I don't think it goes far enough. It's still not good. If they're going to be backwards compatibility, then it should be in full, not by selection. And I think part of the reason for that is the thing that they went on to afterwards, the Xbox One X Enhanced. Basically, the core crux of it is, you have old game, you play it on new Xbox One system, it does up-resing. It's kind of like with the thing I was saying before, where if you play the older games, or the Xbox One the Xbox One X games, when played on the Xbox One X, are going to be of higher res than played on the S or the original Xbox One, because of reasons. It's the whole 4K thing. Again, it's just putting out all of these patches for these select games, so you can play it at higher resolutions or in 4K or whatever. Generally, don't care. I want to be able to play all of the old games because I have the discs. It shouldn't stop me from playing the old games, you sods. So, yeah, it's a plus, though generally don't care. It's kind of intermingled with the backwards compatibility thing, where I honestly wouldn't. Basically, I would throw out the Xbox One S Enhanced if it meant I could play the old games, even as is, in their pixely glory. I would do that gladly. That's how much I want backwards compatibility over some sort of increased fidelity. And then came one of the interesting points around the Xbox One X, and that is the price. It is $4.99, and that is $4.99 across the board. $4.99 of the dollars, $4.99 of the pounds, $4.99 of the euros. Kind of remarkable that that price across the board. Might show the weaknesses of the various currencies combined together, or the fact that buying it abroad is going to be cheaper, as long as the bleeding thing is not region locked. And then, considering the price, it's I'm not entirely sure about the price. It's still a hefty price tag, but it's a hefty price tag for basically a boosted up version of a console that came out about 2 years ago. This is the sort of thing where it's this incremental updates for consoles is something I don't really like, because these things are not cheap. £500, that ain't bleeding cheap. People can say, "Oh yeah, we can get PCs for that same price." It's like, yeah, but again, it's like basically every couple, it's like every year or so, you're getting a new thing for £500. The life cycle for these consoles shouldn't be that short, and that's part of the reason why the pricing, the pricing for itself for what you get is okay, but I don't like the idea of the fact that you're probably going to end up having to spend £500 every 2 years to get the latest version is something I don't like. The forwards compatibility argument is something that's going to rear its head over and over again with me saying that. It's going to be, oh, but yes, it doesn't matter what version you can get, you can skip every other generation and get that one. And then my argument is, well, then why make the intermittent versions then? It's, why make the Xbox One X? Why not wait a couple more years and make a brand spanking new Xbox that is a giant leap forward rather than a small step? Yeah, that is basically my argument for the whole thing. Is it's a small step that is generally pointless, and it kind of connects again to the thing I said at the beginning and the thing that I've been saying about the Xbox One X. That is, I don't like it. I don't like it for the fact that it seems like a pointless move. Generally, it's the only reason this new version exists is 4K and VR. VR has a point, but Microsoft don't do VR. They don't do VR yet. They've got the HoloLens, and then they kind of ruin their partnership with Oculus so they can do Microsoft VR. So they're doing it eventually, but doesn't necessarily require a new console at this time. So, as part of this, I'm still, generally, I am not convinced of this new Xbox One X. Really, I am not convinced in the absolute slightest. I think the thing that I would say is, if you want to play all the Xbox games, they're compatible with the Xbox One S. That's about £150 to £200 cheaper. It's 4K does not matter that much. 4K doesn't matter that much, and you're not going to be able to play VR stuff on it anyway, because no VR games are out for the bleeding thing. So, yeah, it's not convinced for it, and my advice is the Xbox One S is cheaper. Get that instead. And then, as the topper to the entire thing, they ended with Anthem, as EA held back a lot yesterday, or day before yesterday, at their conference, and they splooged it all over the end of Xbox. Yeah, it looks like Destiny. It's BioWare's Destiny. It's probably the most simplest explanation for this. It looks like and plays like BioWare's Destiny. It's potentially four-player co-op, almost MMO-ish, raidy sort of game. Am I interested in this? Are other people going to be interested in it? Probably. Is it going to last? Don't know. The Destiny didn't. It's this merging of MMO and first-person shooters is a very finicky sort of business, and it can go tits up extremely quickly. So I don't know if it'll last. It could last, and people are probably going to enjoy it, but it is its length of survivorship in the realms of gaming, rather than its fun, is probably going to be its most defining point. How long the game is out and how long the support is going to last is much more of the point of this than anything else. It's the same went for Destiny. It's part of the reason why I don't like the idea of Destiny 2. Kind of. It's the whole thing of it's just expand the previous one. Just go full MMO and just treat it and act like it's an MMO rather than a first-person franchise shooter. because people are going to be spending a shit ton of money in this thing through microtransactions, and I don't like that idea, that the fact that it's going to be treated like an MMO, people are going to pay into it like an MMO, and then all of that cash is just going to disappear when they decide to end support. Yeah, there's a reason why World of Warcraft has been going for nearly 15 years or so. So, yeah, generally it looks fine. Don't know. Generally, I'm going to leave it as no comment at the moment. It looks fun, but it goes into the same realm that I have with Destiny of. So, to sum up the conference, I don't know. It's basically, it comes down to two separate things that are kind of connected but also not. The first, it's basically the hardware and the games. They're pushing of the hardware, they're pushing of the console brand, the pushing of the Xbox brand is, I don't like. It's kind of pointless. It's like the push that they're having for the Xbox One X and 4K and all of that stuff is, I think, stupid. I don't like it. This idea of the intermittent consoles and all the sort of thing, that stuff just seems a lot. Yeah, basically all that stuff I don't like. But in regards to the games that they showed off, the games themselves, there was something there for everyone. There's some franchises there that I don't know about and are not really necessarily interested in, like the Code Vein, and Black Desert, possibly Forza, things like that. That I'm not just generally not interested in. There are some there that I obviously don't like, like perhaps Anthem. But yeah, there are some games there that I'm obviously not going to like. Actually, yeah, Darwin Project and Battlegrounds is probably a more obvious point. They're definitely not my type of games, and I'm not going to enjoy playing them. Yes, some games I won't like, but there are some games that I will like The Last Night, Artful Escape, perhaps Ashen. Yeah, so there are some games I do like, some games I got no comment on, and some games I will like. The same way that for everyone there is going to be a game that they like, games that they don't like, and games that they have no comment on. There was a game for everyone. There was at least one game in this for everyone, and that in itself should be applauded. The fact that Xbox managed to make a conference and give everyone something. They gave everyone something, and I think that's the best thing for it. That's the best thing that they had, is that they gave something for everyone. So, with one hand is the hardware and the usage and the pushing of the Xbox brand and the Xbox One X. In that hand, I think, is a giant pile of shit. In the other hand is the games that they showed off, the games that they had, the games that they are planning to release, the games, basically all of the big pile of games that they showed off at that point. And in that one is greatness. So it ends up having this very strange dichotomy of one part of the conference I honestly can say I did not like, but in the other pits, in everything else, is something that should be applauded. Which comparatively to last year is a fucking huge step, because last year I just got very irritated and angry at Xbox. It's the conference last year was rather forgettable, and I just generally, I think the one thing I remember is getting very irritated at the crap. This time it's kind of like a sine wave, dips and rises. It's a sort of yeah. So it's yeah. The conference generally is a sine wave. Some good, some bad, some bits I don't care, some of it's I adore. So it's yeah, that's a hell of a response from the years prior Xbox. You're endearing yourself to me. Not necessarily. I don't necessarily like you just yet, but you're endearing yourself to me. Sony, you have quite the job on your bleeding hands. You better not screw up today, because the way you've been acting last year, everything's been going to your head, Sony. You have quite the job on your hands. Yeah, you are endearing yourself to me, Xbox. Not to the point where I'll get you just yet, but perhaps your compatibility with Windows 10 is going to drive me to not hate you. There is hope for you yet, Xbox. There is hope. There is hope that I will have affection for you at some point. Perhaps not for Xbox, but perhaps for Windows. Even though Windows has a tendency to hate Windows at this point, but yeah, I'm conflicted. Generally, I'm kind of conflicted emotionally. I've not liked you for so long, Xbox. It feels weird going, there might be something there that I might like. I've not liked you for so long, and there's something there. It's like I'm talking about ex-girlfriends or something.